Welcome back to the read-along book club of Jeff Vandermeer's Absolution. Apologies for the delay on this video. My life's been very busy lately, so I'm sure many of you out there have already finished the book, and if so, that's okay, because I'm I'm still making videos about it. I think there might just be one more video after this. I know there's about 80 or so pages, but let me know in the comments, and we'll talk about it at the end too, if you guys are comfortable with reading that many pages. And big surprise, I'm going to be out of town for work next week as well, but I'm going to try to get the reading done at least so I can record the video when I get back. So let's talk about Absolution a little bit. A little bit of a, let's breeze through some of the points here. So first and foremost, the one thing I've noticed more so with the first and the last, although there was some of it in the False Daughter, is the incredible amount of interior reflection, right? It's a very introspective way of writing. Vandermeer's approaching this in a very, very character deep way. That's probably a terrible term, but that's kind of how I'm reading this. And what am I getting at, you might say? So I love characterization. If you guys have watched my channel for any amount of time, I'm always talking about how important it is, how much I love it, how much it is just, it just gets you into the story. So anyway, not a lot happened in this series of chapters. That's what I'm getting at. We pretty much see Lowry. We begin with a roll call right here about the 24 expedition members who are going across the border, and then just him going off in his head and thinking about things a lot. Not a lot of forward momentum, you might say, which I think is okay. However, part of me is a little disappointed because I want to go to Area X. I want to see Lowry there, even though Lowry's character is not at all what I expected. So we know he's hyped up on drugs. We know he's nervous. We know that he's got this nervous tic, may or may not be caused by the drugs, where he's swearing all the time. But we get a little respite, don't we? We get a moment of relief from the F-bombs once he passes through momentarily. But then when they come back, he even mentions that he's trying to, use them when they count. So that was kind of a cool development. I wonder if Vandermeer was getting a little tired himself of it, or if he felt like he needed to show some, I don't know, some actual humanity a little bit, even though he is a pretty crude guy, even after he stopped swearing. But anyway, let me know how you're feeling about this group of chapters and how you're feeling about Lowry in general. Are you connecting with him as a character? I'm not going to lie. I think he's kind of a disappointment. I was really hoping to see someone who, because we remember Lowry from Acceptance, and we remember what an asshole he was. Very similar to how he was here. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking Area X turned him into this, right? It made him unstable. It made him bipolar. It made him just a little bit off his rocker. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like he's this crude, kind of crazy, kind of self-destructive guy without all of that. Now, granted, again, he's on drugs. I get it. But still. But I will tell you one thing. So, as you know, I got to meet Vandermeer and get my book signed by him, which was fantastic. I've been trying to get my book signed by him for a long time. But the author, or not the author, the interviewer, Sarah Rose Eder, whose book I'm actually reading right now, which is great. It's called Ripe. But anyway, she was interviewing him or guiding the discussion, you might say. And the very last sentence, I believe, of this part of this, the entire book, I guess, but of the first and the last specifically, she felt was incredibly tragic. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to kind of a, hopefully that's not a spoiler for you guys out there. I don't think it is. It's not specific, but I'm looking to look back at this entire novel, at this entire final section of the book, looking back at Lowry in a new light, because that's the one thing I love about the original trilogy is once you get to the end, you look back at the beginning in a different way, right? Whatever you thought about the biologist or Control or Saul or even the director herself, like, I don't know, it just puts everything in a new light, right? A new perspective. And I think that's the greatest thing about the way Vandermeer writes is that, and I know I'm rambling, apologies, but hopefully you guys like talking about this as much as I do. it's almost like in real life, you have a first impression of somebody, and then as you get to know them, there's often a pivotal moment in your time together that you think, wow, I really didn't know this person. Anyway, that's kind of how I felt about Control and the biologists and all the characters. And so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'm going to feel the same way about Lowry, because old Jim was a good guy, I think, anyway. So let's begin, shall we? Wow, that was a long introduction. Well, good thing I have chapter markers down below so you can skip through my ramblings. Scroll call is where we're going to begin, everybody. So morale-boosting booster of a briefing received. I love the wordplay here. He's doing it all the time, especially with Lowry. Roll call came next, which meant the stink eye from Lowry some because the Southern Reach had let him keep his mane of golden hair. So I think he had a mane of white hair, if I remember correctly, at acceptance. So he's spicolating it right now. He's being Sean Penn in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So it's interesting to view him that way with just these locks of golden hair. But anyway, let's move on. But they knew why they'd brought him on. Charismatic and direct, a little nutty, the craggy good looks. This is him, of course, talking highly about himself to a degree. The athlete's build, the fittest members by far. Resolute jaw, a comedian as a bonus, could tell a great joke, unpredictable moves, bright blue eyes, piercing, some women call them. Yeah, baby. Keep the mane. So if you can say one thing about Vandermeer, he knows how to write in a character voice. This is beautiful, third-person limited characterization on the page. Good stuff. Even though Lowry is not the coolest guy. Well, he thinks he is. Maybe you think he is. I don't know. But still, who the fuck didn't feel quasi-invincible on this mission? They had trained like banshees, like windmills, like robots, like pixie fairies made of some unbreakable metal, pumped up on adrenaline and some drugs. See how he teased that out? Love it. But also, there were too fucking many of them, which got on Lowry's nerves. So there's 24. We get a complete name list coming up very shortly. That was Tommy Ugg. That was Gretchen Super Groper. That was Prick the Super Psychic. So yeah, on and on and on. But he fucking liked very few of them except Landry, Hargraves, and well, maybe just those two. So he stops himself. He liked Hargraves because she fucking accorded him respect, and not just because, like fucking usual, she wanted a special gold-plated invite into his pants, because we know he's handsome, piercing blue eyes, athletic build, everybody wants him. We learned some other things about his anatomy, what he thinks of his anatomy a little bit later on. But then they were all still kind of there, malingering, and Lowry watched Whitby's grin hit a glitch before it flared forth once fucking more. Poor Whitby. Because he wants to be in on this, right? To a degree anyway. So the first expedition at number 24. And here are all the names. I'm not going to read all of them. But it is a very diverse set of people. We have biologists, medics, of course, psychologists, psychics, crazy, surveyors, hypnotists, so many. I probably should have paid closer attention to these names while I was reading and exactly what their role was. But anyway, there we are. There's the list. There's alternates as well. Would-be Allen, Cosmic Star Child, David Reed, Cosmic Dipshit, Jenny Sperling, not dipshit, not cosmic, not going. So, again, at least this is incredibly fun to read. But unfortunately, Whitby's an alternate that didn't get to go yet. We know he goes eventually. Which was why the number one candidate to drop dead sooner than later had always been and always fucking would be Scott Landry. Landry was cool though, right? That's where he gets the drugs from. Storm the torpedoes, damn the speedos, all hail. Had been his and Landry's battle cry for a while. You have to bring all the drugs in Active Area X, Landry, Lowry had told him, and nodded now at Landry across the table and cocked his finger at him and winked. Which brings us to No Reason, Titty. These chapter titles. Jeff Vandermeer said he wrote this in a kind of a fever dream of sorts. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Last fucking lunch in the cafeteria after the last words from the director. Lowry felt his left foot tapping no matter how he tried to stop it. The usual last words, in caps, bleached of meaning, prattling over images of military helicopters, blatting over some jungle about honor, duty again. Round table, none of them fucking Lancelot or Lancelotia. I love that. Lowry, I know I say that a lot, I'm sorry, but I do. staring at his pallid lunch as if it should be lobster in a bottle of champagne, because it should. It should be, right? I mean, they're going into unknown alien territory, right? A stale bun of disappointment, fillet of flat fucking flounder that looked like it came decanted from the jar room of all of the specimens. Why'd you agree to sign up? Winters to the room in general. Cock. Also loud agreement. Love, death, etc., etc. We're like the colonists in the days of yore, someone said. Who said that? Who fucking said that? Winters again asserting himself. So they're a bunch of children. They're a bunch of immature high schoolers, you might say. Finding honor and glory and courage, Easterling said. Foraging for scraps from an unknown entity. Titty, Lowry offered. There is the titular part of dialogue here. Find the off switch. We just need to find the off switch. Who the fuck just said titty for no fucking reason? Lowry asked. Crazy. We know he's crazy. All the most important haunted fuckers from the director on down fucking vomited from their mouths all the time about the fucking off switch as if it can be turned off, and fuck, almost time. Which brings us to the off switch. The director shortened active area X to area X. Finally, we're getting its true name. At exactly 1700 hours, they're on base curfew, like a fucking coward. Lowry had snuck into Sky's quarters, sawed off that shotgun like everything else, Lowry said. Exactly, Sky said, like everything else. Except the number of expedition members, Lowry said. 2 less psychics than I'd prefer, Sky said. The psychics go first, Lowry said, left it cryptic. Whether he meant get cold, be pushed on ahead as bait. Landry's cocktail mix this time blew Lowry's mind. The fucks were incredible. The number of F-bombs going off in his head, trembling off the charts on the tip of his lips. Central's emissary rather, had popped up to fucking embed him, as Lowry saw it, as Central's right hand on the mission. So we know that Jack is using Lowry like he uses everybody else. He's there to be his right-hand man, thereby Central's right-hand man, to not just investigate, but to sort of, I guess, be a spy, right? Be a spy. But the thrill of how Jack Severance, Central's bright and shining spy master, talked him up in private to people he met but didn't know, but must be fucking important if Jack introed them. Wanted him as an extra set of hyper-vigilant eyes, from my perspective, quote unquote, in addition to his actual secret fucking mission. He wore a Surf brand button-down flowered shirts with a silver cross on a chain around his neck, the Sping Jack, of course, with dress slacks and shiny dress shoes. It looked like his granddad's granddad had bequeathed to motherfucking him. Lowry would meet at Bleekersville, Bleak as Fuck, Snuckers, Balls, Pool Hall. I love how there's like a magical quality of the pool hall in Bleekersville, where so many things have gone down, right? It was important for the director. It was important for old Jim. It's just like Jack Severance's spot. I love that because it's such a mundane, run-of-the-mill kind of location. But yeah, good stuff. Lowry gave him reports on progress, including what he thought about the director and Whitby. Jack had his eye on Whitby, like a fly on a juicy piece of dog shit, as noted here. And it's a goddamn miracle, Jack muttered once, that we covered it up and sold a bullshit story. Put an expedition in there too. Interesting, right? Lowry got the full instructions for the Seek Mish, as he liked to call it in his head, most of which involved some ancient fucking dude named Old Jim. There he is, right? Who Jack-o'-lantern, I love how he gives Jack all of these nicknames, like Jack in the Box, which is the chapter we're going to read after this group, thought might be still alive in Area X. A guy Jack said had been compromised by a foreign entity and affected by pre-Area X infiltration. Because as we know, as we read, we know exactly what went down. Kind of. I mean, somewhat we know. But anyway, let's move on. He noticed out of the corner of his eye that the lilies had not survived the trip to her suite, just the vase. Because Lowry, he's a sentimental guy. He's a romantic guy. He's in love, right? He has professed his love for her. Would she put the ring on for fuck's sake? Or had she and it didn't quite fit? Subtext? Maybe. Which brings us to reverse pufferfish. So then in the end, the fucking end of the beginning of it all, they faced the suits in the special wing of the Southern Reach reserved for the equipment. And it fell to Lowry, and apparently only him, like wearing the skin of another human being and then putting over a fucking constricting fucking tight turtleneck sweater made of rubber that covered his entire body. So Vandermeer talked about this extensively in the the Q&A session when he's talking about this and how Lowry is just feeling absolutely trapped in the suit because it's skin tight, but it feels like a skin tight thing over a skin tight thing over a skin tight thing. And it's just absolutely suffocating, making him claustrophobic. But they lose all the suits, as we know, once they pass through. But shoved so tight together in the truck that Lowry couldn't have fucking moved if he wanted to. Staring at each other from the humidity-tinged helmets. I love that visual, right? They're sweating in there. It's like condensation. They can't see each other. They're packed in there like sardines. Not like any kind of special, group. I mean, this is the first time. This is the first and the last, the first mission. And they're just in the back of this truck in these weird suits that basically are going to screw them, or well, one of them anyway. But anyway, just like the chicken before them, he notes on the last line. Which brings us to the chicken backward. I don't know why, but chicken fucking noodle soup we begin with. Whitby had told Lowry about the chicken. Whitby, new to the job, still convinced he'd make the expedition, which, poor guy, was an alternate. Whitby had cornered Lowry in the hauntable dining digs to tell him the fucked up chicken story. Even back when Whitby told him the fucking chicken story, he was pretty high. Do you know the story of how they tested the corridor? Whitby asked him. How they field tested it, I meant to say. The corridor from the science department to the cafeteria? Do tell. No, from the border into Area X. Robots, right? Funny, fancy prancing robots with weird hats and weather vanes for heads? Okay, Corporal Fresh Fuck the Third, tell me about the chicken. I'm not... Just tell me before my jiggle settles, man. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There's like Jello or something jiggling while they're... There it is. Lowry looked at his aspic juggling interior fruit slices. That's what it was. So I love that. It's like at the table, like a visual cue of just like jostling while they're telling this chicken story. But anyway, here we go. Whitby. Yes, so they did send that robot on a track, but it became stuck halfway through. I ran out of energy, but anyway, they brought it back and sent it to backup chicken instead. Sent in the backup chicken instead. A chicken in the harness with a lightweight rope attached to the harness. They put the chicken in the robot carriage and unspooled the rope, a very thin, very long rope, because they didn't yet know the length of the corridor. But at some point, the robotic carriage encountered some obstacle, but the chicken went toward the light in front of it. The light? The opening at the other end. And because they put a small primitive camera on the chicken, because they often do that, right? And the chicken went through the hole, they knew it was possible for a person to go through. Wait, what do you mean? And how many times did they do this? Just once? And what happened to the chicken? More of a rooster, Whitby said. A fighting rooster of some kind. So what happened to the chicken rooster is that they had to pull it back to get the camera from around its neck. And that's what they did. But the chicken, the rooster, unrecognizable. That's the really great, interesting part. It didn't resemble a chicken at all anymore. But at last the camera was intact. Anyway, that's what I heard. That's when Lowry did leave the table. So what the hell did this chicken look like? Are we going to find out at all? Just that it didn't look, at all what a chicken looks like when it came back out. And we know a suit and a helmet does something to one of the individuals. So maybe it was something like that, although the chicken wasn't wearing anything other than a harness. But thankfully the camera came back because it feels like Area X is trying to use these things as communication devices, right? But no way the Jack in the Box he had come to know would allow Lowry to risk his life based on the kind of fucked up shit. What had the chicken rooster looked like in the end? Whitby never fucking said. I wonder if we ever will. But here we go, which brings us to chapter fuck forward and fuck backward. So let's see what this chapter brings. But Lowry only realized his voice was saying these things from the look on the faces around him. So he goes crazy. I didn't want to read all this because it's a lot, but he's in his own head. The drugs are kicking in like crazy, and he's mad. But who had he been talking to? Who had he thought was in the tunnel behind them? Who had scared him that much? No idea. He was stone cold sober now. All right, about time. This is when we get the break of the F-bombs. Staring out at a hazy horizon full of trees. How could there be so many trees? And couldn't say the F word. Even thinking it made him nauseous. What the F had happened? Where were his swears? Lowry could already smell Area X, and the sun felt heavy on his face, even dulled by the helmet. But by the time he recovered, the boarder had pooped out almost everyone. He's looking at it as it's a digestive tract of sorts, the corridor. Sky's movements in her suit became more frantic. Marianne Rogers? Marianne? But Dr. Marianne Rogers, the junior wetlands biologist with his startling blue eyes and the perky nose, never answered, never made it through, would never be found, had to have vanished, quote-unquote, in transit, as Winters put it later. I think this might have been the first time we've lost somebody in transit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a lot of vague talking about previous expeditions in the other books, but I don't remember. But anyway, one sausage down, 23 to go, Lowry said, amazed at how odd his voice sounded. And he doesn't care, clearly. Synchronized dancers who drifted out in the crude... Oh, this is such a beautiful image. So let me start at the beginning. So cascading alarm about Rogers, which turned most of them into suit-clad synchronized dancers who drifted out of the crude circle, regaining motor function, but then drew close again, precarious, to form a ragged flower petal design. Flower petal design, except the edges were as sharp as trauma. I love this. As sharp as something that could rip you apart. Beautiful, just like, and dangerous, just like Area X. So flowers are very important in this series of books, as you guys know. So the strange petaled flower that Saul touched, that turned this whole thing into what it is, right? I wonder if that's some kind of little messaging there, even though nobody's experienced it yet, at least in this expedition. Sky barking orders no one at first thought to follow. All that training circling the drain. Before anyone realized, John Ehrlichson lay in a fetal position on the ground, known by the prominent duct tape across his chest, with his name in all caps with a magic marker, like his parents had been afraid he'd get lost on his first day of school. It's such a great way to frame this stuff. So first and foremost, they're there. They've done all this training, and it's useless, as he notes here, right? It's all that training circling the drain, because when you're in training, doesn't often prepare you for reality. It can, of course, and it's better probably than no training. But especially in an environment you've never been in, right? How do you possibly train for Area X when nobody's ever been there? And it's just all pointless. So I love that Vandermeer's pointing out that fact, or I guess Lowry in this way. But also, such a great, what's the word? Devolution in a way? That's probably not the right word, but how he's got the duct tape across his chest. So again, very low-tech stuff, right? And in science fiction movies, you always see people in these crazy suits, this extra protective gear, all of these sensors, all kinds of stuff when they go into this thing. And they're just wearing these suits with their name tag with duct tape, as if like his parents had been afraid to get lost his first day of school, which is great because that is turning them back. It's transforming them back into children. They're very childlike because they're in an environment that is absolutely alien. They're completely helpless. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that bit because I thought that was a beautiful metaphorical subtextual way to really kind of paint the picture of not only how Lowry feels, but how they all feel and how they're all being perceived. But Lowry abstained, noted, destined for his memoir, that the butt patches, this is random and funny, the butt patches on the suits exaggerated glutes so much there was a crinkly shelf or human flesh ledge around Ehrlichson, Henkel, and Winters on which he could have rested some sort of medical equipment. Interesting observation, but from Lowry, I wouldn't expect anything less. Ehrlichson's suit had fused with his body so hard that his helmet had formed fitted to his face like a scene in a gangster movie where they suffocated a snitch with a plastic bag. So very, very descriptive. I can picture that vividly in my mind, and it's horrifying, right? I just picture Ehrlichson sitting there with his just shrink wrapped, basically, possibly a final open mouth scream, a silent scream on his face. I don't know. But now in profile, here we go. I should have read on. Now of his face had begun to turn from tinted copper to a milky white. Ooh, white pores like the maggots in tapioca pudding. So that's even more descriptive and more creepy. Granted, it doesn't talk about his expression much, but anyway, there we go. And here we go. Take off your suits, he screamed into their helmet comms, being so hard some held the sides of their helmet heads with their hands. Take off your suits, contamination. No more flesh bags no more. Just saying whatever rant came to mind on hail of the unrecycled. and the feeling of the human air redoubled. Beautiful, wrought, thick and thrusting and ready, the squawk, tweet, chirp of the birds, the sudden onrush of a more intense blue sky, all of this better than sex, at least better than sex in that moment, because who knew how he'd feel in another moment, but released into a kind of paradoxical paradise. Wow, that is a hell of a way to describe your kind of raw, your naked sort of experience when it comes to Area X, and it's absolutely beautiful and absolutely, in the words of Lowry. And to top it off, he beats his chest with one fist, like half of an old movie. What if here they could be free to burrow into each other's skin to protect themselves, burrow in deep for freedom's sake? He's losing it. Lowry realized he was beginning to spiral. There we go. A grand frenetic molting in their original forms to mark the start of this glorious asshole of an expedition. Soon only Sky, the one who had tried to stop them, still wore her suit. Until she goes, zippers unzipped, and then the arm she pulled out from the suit, then stepped out in the legs, and soon enough she was naked in front of them. It almost feels like a Adam and Eve kind of situation. I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but we have Lowry, we have Eve, which would be Sky, and then I guess all the other people. It doesn't make sense, but that's kind of what came to mind because they're in this pristine wilderness, as we're always talking about it. But come on in, the water's fine, Lowry quipped. Get dressed, Lowry, Sky said. We're free now, though, he said. We're free. That's an order, Sky snapped. I fucking hate you, she hissed in his ear as they headed toward the base camp. Get it the fuck together. That was where his F's had gone, Lowry thought sadly, into her brain. Would he ever get them back? Which brings us to part 2, Jack Off Lighthouse. And we know why it's called Jack Off Lighthouse. It's a little phallic, right, as we find out. But that brings us to the chapter of Some of Us Will Be Queens. The prolonged, desiccated horizon like the roof of his mouth without the drugs. So good. Goddamn, Jeff Vandermeer. The glare of the blazing sun as noisy as a car alarm, sizzling in his face, and them swaddled by base camp like fucking babies. So I can feel this. I can imagine this in so few words. Whereas I feel like many authors out there will kind of take like more of an omniscient view just to kind of describe it. Whereas I love so much how this is why I love limited third. Like when it's third person, I love limited. That's my choice always because you get so much in the head of the character. So you're perceiving the world through them. But Whitby had said, don't be surprised if it's brighter. Brighter than what? Your mother's butt got cut off. In the corner, he'd scrawled, evil advances with good, but could not fucking remember why. The base camp lay at the edge of the pines, the black swamp, looking out through a clear space toward the coast, with reeds and marshes in the foreground. Holy fucks, his fucks had come back, even without Landry's miracles, his miracle drugs. But he held them close, doled them out sparingly, for fear he still only had a finite supply for now. It's funny how he's using these F-bombs as kind of a comforting blanket, right? A crutch. It's kind of cool to think about because it's profane, right? It's profanity, but he's holding them close because it's sort of I don't know if it's a remnant of home and that's why it's like tying him back to himself, or it's just maybe the harsh, crass nature of it that's really anchoring him to some kind of reality because he's elsewhere. I don't know, but I like it. Sky asking if anyone needed prevention drugs to suppress visions. They needed every motherfucking vision they could lay their hands on to counteract whatever Area X might throw at them. Indeed. But there came out of Sky's mouth also the ghost of the director, almost said dictator, noting that the old fuck had asked for preventative diplomacy if possible, but reminding all 21 of them that peace scheming allows for self-defense. I plan to shoot to kill, Lowry said. Remember the 4 points of our star. Evaluate. Do not engage. Sample. Withdraw. So those are their orders. Sample. Withdraw. Which is, I think that was the similar orders to what was it? The original expedition. Well, not the original, but the 11th with the or was it the 12th? The 12th. Yeah, the 12th. With a biologist. But in the view of the unnatural state of the lighthouse, Sky said, our rendezvous point in the case of unforeseen circumstances should be the village halfway between base camp and lighthouse. The fucking Bernie symbol on the horizon, which is the lighthouse. But it looks different to everybody, right? To Lowry, the lighthouse looked like a seance-searing gush fountain of aquamarine come spurting from some giant protean dick. So there you go, Jeff. Nice one. We all kill what we love and we love what we kill, he said. We all kill what we despise and want to shut up, Peng said. That's not the quote. Just stop, Danica said. By then the sky but by then Sky had come over. Lowry, you're becoming unhinged or dissociative. Strange. Nope, nada, just me, the usual Lowry. But Lowry, he felt the lie. He knows what's going on. He himself is even saying he's spiraling out of control. But what do you see? He asked to distract himself. The lighthouse? I see a beautiful blue-green sea anemone. Most of the others see the same, and some see the lighthouse. A few are using meditation aids because what they see is much worse than an erection. Can you hear the sound it makes? Lowry asked. The sound like it's seething, the vibration of that, like it's a real factory churning out little baby NEKCIHCs or something? No, I do not, Sky said flatly. So it's interesting to think that everybody's having a different experience of what this lighthouse looks like. And we do know that there was some kind of hints at the fact that the kind of person you are when you go into Area X is amplified, or at least it kind of facilitates your transformation or your devolution or your destruction, your annihilation. That morning, they had discovered that the mound of suits had gone missing. I have to ask, Sky had said after roll call and a perversely reassuring 22 total, did anyone do this? As a prank? As a precaution? Probably not, but he addressed them as he would have wished to have been addressed. Don't you see, those of us who survive will be kings when we get out. None of this will matter. None of it. And queens, Hargrave said. Some of us will be queens. There you go, Lowry said. So, who knows? Did Lowry do it? Did somebody do it? And they just don't know it because they're contaminated with Area X already. They're seeing different things. They're mentally unwell. They're just confused, which brings us to calorie counts. As they continued to just kind of jack off at base camp, good old Lowry, spinning their wheels, Lowry wondered too, if in the course of fucking coarsened human events, there had been a blessed moment when the concept of provocation had entered the planning stages. The answer to some shitty questions was to beg experimental drugs off Landry and not worry about it, so he could not fucking keep still it. And base camp felt like the ultimate stillness, so he distrusted it. He distrusted it worse. He fucking preferred that they keep in constant motion across that fucked up landscape. Because, yeah, exactly. What is this? Is it a trap? It's going to lead to their doom. They just got to go. Move, winners. Let's fucking move. Chill, Lowry. Be still. Besides, history favors us. Why? This site was a fort once. Someone saw it as having a strategic value. Oh, this site was a fort once? Where is it now? How'd that go for the folks in the fort? Are they still around? Is it still standing? Anyone other than you remember its name? You got naked for no reason in the middle of an emergency situation, Lowry. Just jealous he had dropped trowel first. Just envious of Lowry's massive cock like the lighthouse. Here we go. So there's what I was talking about getting more insight into Lowry's anatomy. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. What was an expedition but a pain in the ass expressed 24 ways, 22 ways, right? He's making note of the last, the remaining people here on the expedition. But base, quote unquote, camps also meant other places that were not base camps. Meant roving like nomads out from the perimeter of a base camp, and that fucking process had already started, probably under Mish orders from the director, quote unquote, imperative to find the fucking off switch to unhaunt us brass. You don't have to do anything now except what you want. How would they stop you? How would they stop me? So Sky ordered Lowry to assist Easterling with the side expedition, in quotes, to secure the village, or if unsecure, to return with intel. You want me to throw confetti? Whatever Easterling wants, so she's sending him along. Assemble supplies for their packs, this is what he has to do. Test the compasses and walkie-talkies and make sure they had adequate rations. But he didn't trust Easterling, and it wasn't because she said dude like duda, which got old fast. Ironic coming from Lowry, right? Easterling, Frank Delmas, Karen Hargraves, Angela Hernandez, Danica Miles, they are the ones who are going. First casualty of base camp, however, was from none other than an alligator. Sherry Binder, the half-assed psychic. Whatever Area X is doing, Banner said, it hasn't affected the gators. Like, how the fuck did you not see a huge alligator moving toward you across the stretch of wilderness? How, as a supposed psychic, did you live down dying from being devoured by the most obvious cliched source of death in the whole damn swamp? I love that. It's cool to see that the alligators are kind of coming full circle, because it is gracing the cover of Absolution, and we know the first part was all about alligators, and the second part had an alligator in it. Devoured by this alligator. Is it the tyrant? Is it something else? We don't know yet. But tracks all around the body and actual sightings of animals they could have eaten, except Central and the cautious director forbade it, so Sky did too. Why the fuck not eat them? They shouldn't be able to, or they should have been able to eat their own suits like body-shaped placentas born into this new world and needling the fucking nourishment. The suits should have been made this way so the sausages housed within them could feast on the bounty. Craziness, right? I know I keep saying it, but it gets worse and worse and worse. All over the fucking place, waiting to be plucked, cooked, and served. Down to 21, the legal age to drink. I love the associations with this stuff. The numbers of the expedition. And as they tick down, it's going to be more and more interesting. So, as I said before, crazy chapters. I'm so excited. They're finally in Area X. Lowry lost his fucks. He didn't completely lose them, which is great. I think we're going to get like actually, I'm reading a little bit ahead, and it seems like there's still quite a bit, but maybe not as many as when we first started this section of the book. But I'm glad we're finally in Area X. I'm incredibly anxious and excited to find out what Lowry's, well, we know what his fate is eventually, but what's the end like? What's the end going to be? And I think that's where we're going to read to, everybody. Unless you guys want me to take a little bit slower and break it up into 2 videos next, I'm going to try to get this out next week, because I'm going to try to read everything, get the video recorded, so you guys don't have to wait another, man, it's been 3 weeks, I apologize. Getting to the end, hopefully, potentially. Again, let me know in the comments if you want me to kind of do 2 videos instead of 1, but I'm thinking it's about 80-ish pages. I know it's going to be a long final video, but I'm anxious to get through this thing. I want to see how it ends. I want to see how this quadrology so far concludes, and then think about it. Chat with you guys about it out there, and see what you think. And presumably most of you, if not all of you out there, have read the trilogy, so how it compares. I'll probably do a formal review for this book too, I think, and then maybe like a review of the entirety of the Southern Reach trilogy. I'm still kind of mulling that over in my mind. I think I'd prefer to do that than do something like it's a book by book thing. But anyway, I'm rambling again. Apologies for all of that. There's always chapter selection down below if you hate it. So again, this has been a hell of a journey. We have 1, maybe 2 videos left, depending on what you guys want to do. But I appreciate all of you guys out there for reading along. I know these videos aren't for everybody, but I love the conversation, the insight everyone's had in the comments. It elevates my appreciation for these works that I already appreciate so much. So thanks for watching. Thanks for reading along with me, and I'll see you in the next one.